This is Blind Like Me.
Hello, everyone.
Interviews, information, and reviews related to living with a vision disability. Your host is Tim Black. Tim has been visually impaired since birth. He's been in radio for 30 years and also hosts the podcast Inside Today's Country. Tim has never let his lack of vision stand in his way.
Well, welcome to another edition of Blind Like Me. My name is Tim Black. Thanks very much for listening to us wherever you find your podcasts. And today's guest we found on one of the new social media platforms, TikTok. Seems like everybody is moving over to TikTok nowadays. And by the way, you can find me there too. I think I have 4 videos out. Our guest is all the way from Victoria, British Columbia. His name is David Johnson. He is an athlete. You're a runner. Is that correct, David?
Yeah, track and field, yeah.
Track and field. What do you run?
The 400.
Ooh.
So one lap of the track.
Good for you, man. I'd be lucky if I get around like a quarter of the track nowadays.
It's the longest sprint.
Oh, no doubt. How did you get into this?
How I got into track and field was growing up, I played every sport like a normal kid, right? So I played hockey, I played football, I played baseball, soccer, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved playing sports. I loved like scoring goals, or in like hockey, like even like body checking a kid and getting a penalty and the rough stuff, and dangling some kid with my stick and then like sniping a nice goal.
Mm-hmm.
But then as my vision kind of deteriorated, as I got older, it got harder for me to see the puck in hockey, and I would lose sight of it. Or in soccer, it was hard for me to keep an eye on the ball and not run in to the other players on the field.
Right.
So then I had to start giving up all these sports that I was playing. So hockey was the first one to go, and then soccer. Then I just pretty much sat at home and like played video games. This is when I'm like 16 years old. Right. My dad, he didn't really like that too much because I wasn't really doing anything too productive. So he came to me and he was like, why don't you try something like music or rowing or something like that? And I thought like, yeah, music's cool, and I'm not really into it though. And rowing, I don't know, I'm not the best swimmer, so it's not for me. But then he said, why don't you try track and field, son? I thought, okay, like, why not? So then I went to my first track practice, and at first it wasn't really anything serious.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of like something I did like 1 or 2 days of the week just to kind of for fun. And then slowly it got more and more serious, and then I started racing internationally, and then winning some races. And then most recently I competed at the 2019 Pan American Games in Lima, Peru.
How awesome is that?
Cool. Yeah, it was crazy.
Tell me before we get into going over to Peru, so what age did you actually lose your vision then?
I was diagnosed at 8 years old with retinitis pigmentosa.
Okay. But
pretty much the kind of like, I guess, hypothesis is I had it from birth, but at 8 years old is when it was kind of discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly since then, it's been slowly deteriorating. For those that don't know, retinitis pigmentosa is kind of like tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
So my tunnel essentially shrinks over time, which I've been seeing the last few years.
Wow. Now, what's that been like? I mean, for me, I mean, I've been visually impaired my entire life, so I'm kind of used to what I'm seeing. But what was that like for you? You're seeing this actually change. Walk me through that a little bit.
Definitely hard. I think it really hard because when you're a kid, like a teenager especially, you don't want to seem any different from any other kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like right when I was in the midst of everything, like figuring out how to use a cane and how to be visually impaired. But I didn't want that, right? Like I didn't want to go through this. Like why do I have to do this? Like why me kind of thing. And that's what I was struggling with as a kid. I just wanted to be like everyone else. So I got a job at the local grocery store and just tried to do what everyone else was doing. So I would be stocking shelves and breaking things that I didn't see and pushing the big cart with all the product on it into customers and things like that, just because I didn't want to seem different.
Right.
And I think that was that's definitely the hardest part
Okay.
of losing your vision,
Yeah.
is giving up kind of the things I guess you could do, but now you can't really do anymore.
That is, one of the truths that a lot of people have who do lose their vision is you're used to a certain lifestyle, and now you've got to, come on the other side of it. But on the other side of it, there are still a lot of things that you can do as somebody who has, lost their vision. And let's talk about going to Peru and running. That must have been an amazing experience. Walk me through that.
Yeah. So how kind of 2019 year started is I started running with a guide in about January 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, I just ran solo. But then it got harder for me to see the lines on the track and stay in my lane, especially on corners. So I started working with a guide. His name's Adam Paul Morris. So we hold a tether that
Mm-hmm.
stretches out about 30 centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
And on each side, there's a loop. So I put 3 fingers in a loop. He puts 3 fingers in a loop. And we have to run with our arms in perfect synchronization.
Okay.
And it's really, really, really hard. I definitely underestimated how hard it was.
Yeah.
I thought we were just going to put our fingers in and start busting out these crazy times. Didn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
We had to start training together, focus on because before we were both individual athletes, and now we have to come together as one, like a team. So that was definitely a hurdle for that 2019 season, was to work together, not against each other. And then learning how to run with our arms in perfect sync.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly we're training 6 days a week, and we start getting the hang of it, and it gets pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We're training hard. We go to our national championship that year in July in Montreal. We get the win there, and we're kind of right on the bubble for the Pan Am team. So we were kind of humming and hawing if we were going to get to go. And then we squeaked on like the second last spot, I think,
Mm-hmm.
which was, we were just happy to be on the team, right, to
Mm-hmm.
compete. So we got on, and we got all the cool Team Canada kind of gear. We got to get on the plane and take our god-awful flight all the way from Victoria to Peru, which took like way too long, but it was amazing. I think the coolest experience of the Pan Am Games, or the Para Pan Am Games, there was just all I didn't think the crowd would really show up for the Para Games, right? Just because I just didn't think they would be interested.
Mm-hmm.
But the bus is coming in to, I'll never forget this, the bus is coming in to the stadium, and there's thousands of kids outside jumping up and down, waving, trying to like give you like high fives and things like that. And then you walk in the stadium and it's sold out and you can't hear anything. Everyone's just cheering so loud. These people don't even know you. They're from a totally different country, and they're just cheering for you, and it's amazing.
That has to be just not only like a wild experience for someone like yourself who has had, in the past played hockey and soccer, as you talked about, but now you're in the blind world and you're seeing amazing success with what you're doing. That has to make you feel good.
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't really know that this was an option for me growing up. I think a lot of visually impaired people don't know that, yeah, you can go out and be a professional athlete and get paid. I started getting paid at 17, 18 years old to start running, and that was like, whoa, I can really do this. I can make money from a sport and compete at a high level and travel around the world for free and train and get all these amazing experiences, which growing up, I never thought that was a thing, because I was playing hockey and every other kid is like, oh, I'm going to go to the NHL. But in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that was never a thing, because I can't see how am I going to play against Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid and those guys, right? Like,
right, yep.
Not going to work. So then I found track and field, and that I could actually excel at a high level. Amazing.
When you started running with the track and field and you're working with your coach, as you say, you're training 6 days a week, who are the people that you look up to give you inspiration for what you're doing?
I would say right now, definitely my guide. Mm-hmm. He's one I come to with problems off the track or on the track. I'm always looking up to him for different things, because he had a pretty successful career as a 800-meter runner. Mm-hmm. He's 28, 27, so he knows. He's a bit older than me and's kind of been through a lot of the same problems that I'm coming through in training. So he has a lot of answers, mm-hmm. questions I have, which is great. Mm-hmm. Another one is just on like Instagram and things. Like I love seeing other people crush workouts, and shout out to Cam Newton, the quarterback, who's a free agent. I see him on Instagram working out and just like crushing stuff, and that just motivates me to work harder, be better, just to see other people do things.
What's next for you in your running career?
We just got the kind of sad news of the 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games are going to be postponed to 2021.
Yeah, that's what our world is going through right now, right?
Yeah, so we heard about that about two or 3 weeks ago now. Mm-hmm. So we had to make a little bit of an adjustment, because now we don't have 5 months to the games. We have 18 months to the games, kind of thing. So we're switching up our training a little bit, which I think is a good thing for Adam and I, because we get more runs together and more practice together, and just to be better, because I'm one of the younger kind of athletes. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a plus. But definitely part of me was like, okay, like I put in countless hours of work in the fall and in the winter to be in the best shape for August 2020 for these games, and mm-hmm. then now it's not an option. So definitely that was a little bit kind of crushing, I guess, of training all those times and things like that. But it is what it is now. So
tell me what you do when you're not training.
Big thing right now is working on speeches. Mm-hmm. So I've been going around to different events with the help of RBC, telling my kind of story of what it's like to grow up with a visual impairment, and maybe the way that I overcome adversity in certain things. Because I think even though I'm pretty young, I think a lot of people can learn things from I've been through so much at a young age. Mm-hmm. And then also Adam and I are trying to get our kind of brand off the ground. We have a website called runningblind.co. We're selling shirts and hoodies and things like that, and trying to do our own speeches at elementary and high schools and things like that.
Let's talk about those speeches when you go out. What's the message that you bring to them?
I think the biggest message would be that I've overcome something like being visually impaired, mm-hmm. and I'm totally now okay with it. But it was not an easy road to get there. I had to deal with some substance related issues of addiction and stuff like that to get through it. Mm-hmm. And also just maybe teaching that it's okay to ask for help from others. And I think the big thing that I try and preach is when there is no way for someone to act blind or look blind. Every blind person has their own look and acts a certain way. And I think that's the biggest thing that I run into, is people think that blind people have to act or look a certain way to be blind, when that's not the case at all.
That leads us into how we found you on TikTok. Actually, it was my wife that found you. And you were telling a story about how you were in a bank and somebody didn't understand what your white cane was about. And that's something that's close to your heart, is talking about your white cane.
This gentleman came up to me and he didn't understand what my cane was for. And I was a little kind of confused, because I thought, like, me having my cane, like how come you can't see me as someone with a visual impairment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the old me probably would have took my cane and whacked them, right? Because you're saying all these things, like, come on. But I realize now that that's the wrong response.
Yeah.
When people are coming to me with the comments of like, you don't look blind, or how do you do all this with a visual impairment? They're not trying to put me down or make me feel bad 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't understand how someone like me with a visual impairment can persevere through this and look a certain way and be confident and do all these great things.
Mm-hmm.
But for me to be able to use my white cane was pretty hard. The way I got to be able to use it is, at first, is I would use it as a joke.
Right.
So I would be in the airport and I would kind of pretend to be blind, because people would always look at me and not understand that I'm blind, because I'm young, my
mm-hmm.
eyes focused, I make eye contact when I'm talking to someone. So
right.
I would walk around the airport with my cane, waiting for my flight kind of thing, and then I would just maybe like whack someone's suitcase,
mm-hmm.
and they would just kind of be like, oh, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly that made me able to use it in a serious way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, but that's just what worked for me. I would also like play hockey with my cane in the airport if I'm waiting for my flight. So I would open up my suitcase and take out my sock and kind of like ball it up, and then stick handle, and then shoot. I would like ask someone to be goalie. I would be like, hey, can you come here? And I'd put 2 suitcases there and get them to stand there, and I would just shoot at them with my cane. And they were like, this is so cool. What's going on? They're like, you're the coolest blind person I ever met. And so that was one way for me to be able to use it. I actually just I took some hockey tape
mm-hmm.
and kind of made like a cool pattern on my cane.
Okay.
Which is one thing I'm trying to encourage some of my other blind friends to do, is just like customize your cane, like pimp your cane out. It's your cane, put your own touch on it, make it your own.
That's true.
So be confident being blind with your cane.
Right. So you didn't go through any of the regular orientation and mobility then through the CNIB or anybody else like that?
I did a little bit when I was really young,
mm-hmm.
Like grade 5, like kind of 10 years old
mm-hmm.
age. But I never really took it seriously, I guess, at that age, or respected the kind of orientation of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just use it for the orientation, and then just put it right in my bag, because
mm-hmm.
like I didn't want anyone to see me with that thing or
mm-hmm.
or stuff like that. So the big thing that I would do is at nighttime, I would, because with retinitis pigmentosa, you can't see at nighttime. It's
right.
It's pretty much pitch black. So I would have to walk to my apartment at nighttime, and I can't see anything. And I wasn't about to use my cane. So I would put on a big jacket, some sweatpants, put a toque and a hood on, and then just walk through kind of like downtown, looking like a big tough guy, so no one would kind of mess with me.
Right.
So everyone would just automatically get out of my way if I'm walking somewhere, because I can't see them.
Okay.
And for me, that was easier to do that than to use my cane. I'd rather like walk into someone and just get beat up than use my cane and just explain to them that I'm blind.
So that's changed a little bit now then.
Yeah, 100%. I've just, I guess, fully accepted it and became okay. Mm-hmm. And I think the big thing that helped was me doing these speeches, because if I'm on stage talking to thousands of people about how I've overcome my disability and I'm on to bigger and better things now, how can I go and do the exact opposite in my daily life?
Mm-hmm. What's one of the biggest challenges that you've overcome yourself?
Being okay with being uncomfortable. When I was about 14 years old, I was hanging around kind of the wrong crowd and got into some bad activities and started drinking a lot, and probably got to a point where I was drinking almost every day or every second day, and definitely use that as a crutch. So for me to slowly get off that and become okay with being blind and just being uncomfortable was definitely the hardest thing.
You talked quickly that you're trying to get your other friends to pimp out their canes and make them look cool. What support do you have, in 2020 as an athlete? What is your circle like with other blind people?
I know a lot of most of the blind people I know are from track and field, from all over the world actually, and I always say the blind people in the Paralympic stream are always amazing people, because you have to be accepting and overcoming of your disability to travel around the world and run at extremely fast speeds. But my inner circle of blind people is, I probably only have like a 2 or 3 close blind friends. One big thing that I was working on the last couple months was starting a program with the CNIB, the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, because I've noticed that growing up for me that the CNIB has lacked certain things and was never really did anything for me. So I just went in there with Adam one day after one of our presentations, and I said, hey, like, I want to talk to someone. I have a program idea I want to pitch. And they're like, okay, I guess so. And they found me someone. So we sat down and I said, like, hey, I want a program that is getting blind people to do something serious. Like, you guys have your seated dance and your arts and crafts program, which is great. That's great. But what about the kids that want to competitively dance or competitively paint pictures and be the best painter in the world? You don't have that option. So I said, let's do something like that. I don't care if it's cooking or painting or sports, but naturally I'm a sports guy, so I'm going to push sports a bit. So we're in the works of getting a serious track and field program going in Victoria, B.C. to get kids and young adults into a pathway to be successful. And I think part of that, a big thing that'll come from that, is having close connections with other blind people. I found out was kind of designing that program was, I was reaching out to blind people all across North America. I would set up a phone call with some people I know, and I reached out on social media to get a bigger audience. And I was talking with people that I've never even talked before. But just for me to talk with 20 different blind people was like, whoa. I'd find myself on the phone for like 2 hours explaining stories of like, yeah, my friends left me in the nightclub too. Like, I couldn't see anything, crazy experience. What? How did that happen to you as well? And just like all these things, like I was on the phone walking and I was like, oh, I almost got hit by a car. And they're like, oh no, me too. It was like 5 minutes ago. And it's just all the similar things. It was crazy.
That's awesome that you're doing that, because the one thing I've learned is blind people like to talk.
Yeah, they do. It's almost therapeutic in a way, just to talk to other blind people, just to get that off all that stuff off your chest. Because when you're talking to kind of a sighted person, they don't fully understand what you're totally going through.
Nope. Let's talk a little bit about your friends. I love the story of the person telling they left you in a nightclub. That's happened to me many, many times, that I've all of a sudden just, I'm standing there, hi. As I've gotten older, my eyesight isn't as strong as it used to be. So my wife guides me a lot more than she used to. I used to be able to ride a bike very, very confidently with the vision that I had. Nobody ever knew how I did it. So I see where you're coming from, and I totally get your story, and I think it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing. Let's talk a little bit about your friends. How are they've accepted who you are and what you are?
Yeah, pretty good. Definitely growing up, I would say a lot more friends, but I wasn't as close to a lot of them. And over the years, just kind of turned into, now I have a couple of close friends who I truly trust and who I really like to spend time with. And I think that's the way, for me anyway, that it should be. I don't really want to be hanging around people that I don't fully like, or I'm not going to pretend to like you to hang out with you and things like that. But a lot of my friends, they're pretty much all of them, fully accepting. And if I need help, they'll help me. I think a big thing that shows when someone's comfortable with my visual impairment is when they're making jokes, right? When they're chirping me a little bit. They call me I'll get this term going on your podcast when they call me a blinky.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah.
You heard that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sure.
I like that one. That one. And so that's one thing that shows that I know they're accepting of it and they kind of get it. I think one big thing that I realized is some girls, I'll tell them that I'm blind, and they'll be like, yeah, like, you don't got a car, you can't drive, like, I'm not really feeling that. And then I'm like, okay, well, like, I don't want to be with you if you're like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to spend my time with people who are accepting of it. Like, I don't care how beautiful or how amazing you look if you're just gonna be shallow like that.
Comes to be the personality, right?
Yeah,
it's got to be the personality. They got to accept you for who you are and what you are and what you do, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Now, we are talking to you via Zoom at your parents' house. Now, we were talking before we started this that you have your own apartment.
Yeah. And
how's that work out for you? For the cooking and all that other fun stuff that we all have to do every day.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm pretty stubborn.
Okay.
So I like to just figure out stuff as I go, which isn't always the best thing, but I think it's the best way to learn is just by figuring stuff out yourself. So
I'm coming to David's house for dinner. What's he making me?
I'm making you pasta, some cut up vegetables, some chicken. I eat chicken pretty much every night because I love chicken.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna give you a little bit of this special sauce that I got in Grenada when I was there for a training camp. Drizzle it on top. It's really good.
All right, you got a deal, man. The next time I'm in Victoria, I'm coming for supper. All right, I'll bring dessert.
I got you.
I'll bring dessert for you. What would you tell the sighted community if you had an opportunity to tell the sighted community one thing? What would you tell them?
I would say that there's no look for a blind person. If I'm walking around without my cane, I pretty much guarantee that 99% of you won't be able to tell that I have a visual impairment. When I'm walking with my cane, maybe a lot more, you can tell I have a visual impairment, but I'm still the same person. And to carry on to that no blind people act a certain way. Blind people are just like normal people. We have our personalities. Some of us are shy. Some of us are loud and outgoing, kind of like myself, and use their cane in the airport to play hockey.
Don't put us all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
David, thanks very much for hanging out with us on Blind Like Me. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us. I love your attitude, dude. I love the fact that you're running, and next year the Olympics will be there, and I look forward to hearing some big things from you when you're doing the track and field. I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to everyone else, if you have questions for me or anything, you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Blind Hipster Dave, and also the website is runningblind.co. So if you guys want to check some stuff out or hit me up, feel free. And thank you so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to Blind Like Me. If you have a comment or suggestion about future casts, drop us an email to blindlikeme@outlook.com. Blind Like Me is a TimBlackOnAir.com production.